Coordinator with Techsoup Canada. And I'd like to thank you all for joining us for today's webinar. And we're going to be learning how to assess your IT needs and implement technology projects at your nonprofit. But before we get started, I'd like to just quickly talk to you about Techsoup Canada. Our mission here at Techsoup Canada is to help other nonprofits use technology effectively, and we accomplish this in two ways. So the first way is our technology donations program, rather. So we make technology products more affordable by partnering with corporations such as Microsoft, Adobe, and Symantec, and we offer their products as either an outright donation or at a significant discount for charities, nonprofits, and libraries across Canada. So for example, if you wanted a copy of Microsoft Office Professional, you can expect to purchase it for about $500 online or in store. However, if you're a Techsoup Canada member and you qualify for our Microsoft donations program, you can get Office Pro for $61. So as you can imagine, the cost savings can become quite significant, especially if you're purchasing software for an entire staff team. Creating a Techsoup Canada account is free, so if you'd like to get more information, please visit our website at techsoupcanada.ca/getting_started. And the second way we try to help nonprofits use technology effectively is by creating and curating nonprofit tech resources. We write blogs, we curate content on social media, and we host events and webinars like this one to help nonprofits learn more about the technologies that can help them in their day-to-day work. So if there's a topic you'd like to learn more about, please let us know. We're always delighted and open to getting feedback from our members about what topics are important to them. And we're going to take a moment to talk about some logistics. For today's webinar, you can use your GoToWebinar panel on the right-hand side to change your audio settings, to enter any questions you may have, or chat with us in general using that question box. At the end of the webinar presentation, we're going to have a formal Q&A session where I'm going to ask questions to our speakers on behalf of you. Just a reminder as well that you are on mute, so if you have any questions or concerns, anything at all, please feel free to chat to us in the question box, and we will respond as quickly as we can. Also note that this webinar is being recorded, and we will upload the video on our website shortly. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our speakers for today. So Enzo Logozo and Eric Neufeld are with 365 IT Solutions, which is an IT consulting firm in the Toronto area. They manage IT services, engaging in IT support, outsourcing, tech support, and cloud services, including Office 365 migration. Enzo is an IT consultant with 365 IT Solutions, and Eric is the manager of technical services. They have a combined 29 years of experience working in the IT industry, and they work closely with many nonprofit organizations to help them address their chronic pain points and increase their productivity, and it's often at affordable rates. And we're pleased to have both of them here with us today to teach us about assessing our IT needs and implementing technology projects at our nonprofits. And without further ado, I'm going to pass the controls over to Enzo and Eric.
Hi everyone, this is Enzo. I would like to thank everybody for giving us this opportunity to quickly discuss with you guys, technology in your sector. Just a quick rundown. Eric and I work together on many projects for nonprofits, and we're always faced with the same challenges that most businesses are. So, everybody has strict budgets, everybody has constraints that they have to address. However, technology is moving at a fast pace, and it's very hard to keep up. So Eric and I usually develop programs that are specifically designed for organizations. And, one of our greatest assets is basically helping companies understand how to apply technology and how to manage it properly within the organization. I encourage everybody to jot down as many questions as you may have. We will try to address as many as we can. If not, through TechSoup, you will be able to further connect with us. And now I'm going to pass you over to my team member, Eric.
Thank you, Enzo. So basically, just wanted to give everyone a quick intro to 365 IT Solutions. We were founded in 2003, and we've sort of adapted over the years into the business that we are right now in Toronto, as was mentioned. We are a 100% Canadian company. We don't offshore or outsource anything. All of our staff is based in the Toronto area. We support companies across the world, so we have offices as far as Japan. And we work with various nonprofits and charities in different industries, as well as for-profit businesses. We believe our brand image and reputation, and we believe in our clients, and we think this helps us serve our clients better. And we have, our slogan is, we make IT simple.
So 365 IT is very strategic in the point of accessing all the large manufacturers out there, software or hardware, and we're consistently asking the manufacturers, basically, you know, what's new, what are you coming to market, and what is the actual business case that can be applied towards it. So, for example, Office 365, we are actually one of the early adopters of Office 365. We have been migrating companies to it for years now, and you know, we've been able to really understand the benefits to the company, how it works, and also how it lowers your operations costs over time. So we do have a very open policy in this company. We do internal testing here. We encourage all our techs to basically be very proactive and play with new technology. And after that, we build a business case on, you know, how it works for certain companies or certain organizations, as well as, you know, nonprofits, you know, Canadian privacy and how to protect your information from users, donors, and how to deal with, you know, the constant influx of volunteers also.
So the main thing we'll be discussing today is how to perform a network assessment to assess the current state and needs of your IT infrastructure in your organization. So a network assessment is a snapshot of the entire IT network within your organization. It helps you create an effective IT strategy by coming up with recommendations and the pain points in your business. We generally like to structure it based on these 5 areas: infrastructure, performance, availability, management, and security.
The assessment is a very important tool when it comes to the management side, as you know, most companies unfortunately do not have the manpower resources to know A, what their current network is doing, B, what their current liabilities are when it comes to their network strategy, and C, how to budget for the future. You know, usually it helps to know, you know, what kind of capital expenditures you're going to have over the next 12 months. You know, is there technology out there that can save you money? Are there programs out there that can save you money? Perfect example, Techsoup has many different hardware and software services available that are available to the nonprofit community. However, it's actually still, in my opinion, a secret. Not many companies, organizations out there actually know of the existence of Techsoup, or they do not know how to apply Techsoup to their business. So ourselves, for example, anytime we talk to a nonprofit or anything of that nature and we do perform a network assessment, one of the quick things that we always you know, try to reinforce to these customers is saying, hey, by the way, in this network assessment, when we actually plan out your network, here are all the resources available to you through, for example, an organization like Techsoup.
Okay, so step 1 with the network assessment is to look at the organizational setup, I guess, of your company. This builds the foundation of the network assessment and everything that comes after it. So it's very important that you sit down with the management team and you get everything right, or as much right as possible. So what should you look for? Size. How many users do you have in your organization? Do you have more users than computers? So if you have a rotating shift or kiosk, users that aren't always on the computer at the time, at all times. This could affect your licensing. With Microsoft, for example, Windows Server, there's different ways to license the server based on how many devices are connecting versus how many users are connecting. So it's important to get this right because this could actually save you money. Next point would be geography. What do I mean by that? I mean, how many sites do you have? Do you have multiple sites in different cities or offices, and how are these sites connecting? Do you have a site-to-site VPN? Are users connecting with a client VPN? Are you using a terminal server or something like that? The next thing to look at is business goals. We are big on 5-year plans. That's something you'll see come up a lot in this network assessment is warranty. So we always try and build a plan to last you 5 years. So you need to have scalability built into that. What I mean by scalability is if you're planning on hiring, doubling your workforce in the next 5 years, you're going to want to have your server planned out in order to support that. New technology. Are you leveraging the cloud at the moment? If not, how can you leverage the cloud in the near future? A good way to start with cloud is looking at your line of business applications. For example, if you use QuickBooks for your accounting, do you actually need to have that on-site QuickBooks installation on your server taking up resources, or would it be more, would it make more sense to have QuickBooks hosted in the cloud, for the costs? The final thing is pain points. So what we want to look at here is specific areas in your company or organization that you have to improve upon. Every organization, I'm pretty sure every single organization we've gone into, they've had something, maybe minor, maybe major, but it's very important to get these down. If you're a larger organization, you may want to consider, you may not hear all of these pain points if you're a larger organization just because of the logistics of the size. So there's certain ways you can get around that too. You could interview with your managers. Managers often, will have a better insight because they hear from the frontline staff, and so you could leverage that organizational expertise from them. Another thing you could do is actually even send out a survey to your staff to get an idea of what's their experiences in terms of IT. There's various various tools to do these surveys. SurveyMonkey is one of the ones that I like to use. It's actually free for basic features. They do offer premium features as well, and they actually have a nonprofit program, so you could qualify for discounts with that as well.
So during the whole step one of the process, the one that I can't stress enough to companies is always pain points. Number 5. You would be very surprised with a quick survey to your employees about how many issues they actually face on the daily challenge, how many workarounds they have figured out on their own, or they're probably doing something they shouldn't be doing on the network, including using file sharing programs, which is basically off-siting company data, which is a huge no-no when it comes to IT, because once again, your data is basically being spread out everywhere and you don't have central control of it. The surveys are a real eye-opener for companies to perform. It doesn't take that much time or effort to actually develop a list of questions to ask your employees, but that's where the greatest success comes out of all these 5 points. Size, geography, business goals, and new technology are all great on the high end of an assessment, but in the end, it's your employees that basically keep the lights on and make your organization move forward, and that's where the biggest pain points and the assessment is really based on, opening up and hearing what is going on with all your employees.
So step 2, assess your network assets. Basically, you want to have a look at the network infrastructure. This will help you see any vulnerabilities in your networks that can be exploited by a security threat, so virus or malware, hacking attempts, or something like CryptoLocker. So the consequences from these are loss of data, downtime, security breach, even the public exposure of your organization in the news if you have a loss of personal data. So this is another important area to look at. What areas are covered by the network assets? Firewalls and routers. So you want to have a look at your firewalls and routers. Make sure that everything is under warranty. Assess the firmware. Make sure it's up to date. And you want to have a plan for updating that firmware on a regular basis, because it's sort of like your computer. There's security updates all the time that are released, so you need to make sure to stay on top of that. Are you using any sort of web content filtering? This will help improve your employee productivity, and it can also protect your company from lawsuits, and it can enforce your acceptable use policy as well. Gateway antivirus, another feature available on a firewall or router. This function essentially provides another layer of virus protection on your network by stopping threats at the edge of your network instead of inside your network. Intrusion detection is something else that you may want to look at if your firewall supports it. Basically, this is just prevents hacking attempts. And then another thing you might want to look at is the open ports on your firewall. Audits them. You know, you're going to want to have a business justification for every single port that's open, because a lot of times what happens is when servers are spun up and you have a new service that launches, you open the port. When that service gets decommissioned, the port stays open. That's something that sometimes people forget to close off. So essentially, it's providing it could be providing a backdoor on your network. Network switches, the next aspect of your infrastructure, your network infrastructure. Again, do you have a current warranty? Are you getting the firmware updates? And do you have a plan for getting the firmware updates? What speed are your network switches running at? We still do see a lot of 100 meg switches out there today when we go into companies. And a lot of organizations don't even realize that they have them. So something as simple as switching from 100 meg to a gigabit switch, and I know that Cisco does provide discounts through Techsoup if you qualify. Something as simple as switching from 100 meg to a gigabit switch can actually increase your speed by quite a bit. The last thing is your wireless access points of your physical area. Are there like dead spots in your wireless? There are free tools out there that can help you assess these. Basically, do what's called a wireless site survey, so you can assess the hotspots and dead zones in your office. What type of security and encryption do you have on your wireless? You want to be using WPA2 at least. No WPA or hopefully no WEP, because those both have security holes in them. Does the wireless align with your regulatory requirements? If you deal with personal information, you may have specific regulatory requirements that are stipulated that you need to basically align with your wireless security policy. Do you have a guest network? Or when guests come in, are you providing them access to your internal network? Ideally, you should have a wireless guest network, so if you have visitors for the day and they need internet access, you can give them an access code for that wireless guest network that only allows them access to the internet and doesn't allow them access to your internal network. Also, if you do have guest networks, it's a good idea to have an acceptable use policy on there as well.
Regarding this network access, everybody can see that picture on the right. If your network looks like that, there's bigger trouble to be addressed. But firewalls, routers, network switches, access points, this is really the core of your network communicating with one another. Some of the biggest things that I've always noticed every time we do a network assessment, especially for nonprofits, is either A, the lack of a guest Wi-Fi network, or B, a very open Wi-Fi network, which is basically a huge security risk. And also, if you guys are looking or running very old equipment, some Techsoup partners have actually some very incredible offers in there for really high-end, really good firewalls, network switches, and access points. So if you do realize in your assessment that these are either old or unsupported equipment, I would connect with Techsoup, as they do have access to some fantastic products that will really help you guys lock down your security. And once again, this is the core of your communications.
The next thing is to look at your server or servers. The server, obviously, it's an important part of your infrastructure. You store all of your data there. It should be accessible 24/7 by 365 or very close to that. They're the heart of your business and network, so it's important to know that your server is healthy. So your server assessment, it should cover the following areas. Once again, warranty speaks for itself. But when it comes to your server, you want to make sure that you have a warranty with the manufacturer that's valid. The reason being is if you have a piece of hardware or components that dies on your server, oftentimes if you don't have a warranty, you're kind of stuck looking for your parts on the aftermarket. So you really don't want to be in a situation where you have, for example, a hard drive controller fail or a RAID controller fail, and you're stuck on eBay trying to get the parts imported from somewhere halfway across the world. Always recommend a warranty. One of our companies that we work with, they do 4-hour warranty or a next business day warranty. So it's good to have that coverage there. You at least know that if you do have an emergency, your downtime is going to be limited. Operating systems. What operating system are you running on your servers? Hopefully you're not running Windows Server 2003. It's been end of life since April of 2014. So what that means is Microsoft is not releasing any security updates for it. This obviously poses a threat to your environment if you do have it. So I would recommend prioritizing that because it is a huge security risk. If you do have a server like Windows Server 2008, it's still supported, but it does it did release end of mainstream support in January of 2015. So there's no more enhancements, only security updates being applied to it. I think it's end of life in 2020, so you still have a few years to get that nailed down, but it's always good to have that, keep that in the back of your minds that it's on the horizon. You want to identify any network services running in your organization. So if you have Microsoft Exchange for email, if you have SQL Server to support your databases, domain controllers, file servers, print servers, essentially you just want to have a grasp of what is running on what server. That way when you actually are doing your plan, you can sort of see if what can be consolidated, or retired. Next thing to look at is security updates. So how are you patching your servers? Are you using a tool like WSUS, which is Windows Server Update Services? That allows you to centrally control it and push them out on your schedule. Are you allowing Windows to patch itself on its own schedule? Or are you just installing them manually? Hopefully they are getting installed somehow. The next thing is performance. So take a look at the RAM and CPU cycles and the disk space on all of your servers. If you see something that's getting close to capacity, that's something you want to deal with, as it could be shortening the life of your equipment by running at such a high rate, or it could be causing slowdowns in your network. Disk space is one of those things that you might want to, you have to keep 20% is what we recommend of free disk space on your server, or else it can cause issues with slowness. The last one is disaster recovery. This is a huge part of the assessment. What are you using for backups, basically? Are you backing up locally? Are you backing up to tapes, hard drives? And then are you backing up off-site? Off-site is is important, and with the increased speeds, internet speeds we are getting nowadays, it's becoming more feasible to host more of your data off-site without having to rotate tapes or hard drives or something like that. So cloud backup solutions are something that are worth looking at. The other thing with backup is what's your schedule? Are you doing a full backup every day? Do you need to be doing a full backup every day? Or are you doing just incremental? And then the final one is retention. So how long are you keeping your backups? Do you have specific regulatory requirements that require you to retain those backups for a certain period of time?
A couple of points to keep in mind here are, for example, disaster recovery. If anybody there is using a third party to back up their data offsite, especially for any BC members that may be online. As you know, BC privacy dictates that all data must be resident within Canada. There are some upcoming services such as Microsoft launching their Canadian data centers, which is going to be great and fantastic even for the Office 365 folks, because we can actually check off Canadian data residency, but it's very important that you verify that with your provider. It's also important that you verify that they are a reputable company, they are a fully insured company, and that their equipment or the data is being hosted in, an ISO certified data center, right? These are very important. As you know, thanks to the great web, a lot of people can launch services very quickly, but it's, it really comes down to checking what their backbone of the system is, and in writing, you guys have a firm, clear understanding of who owns the data. We have seen this many, many times, that data is being stored in areas and there is no written policy or any kind of documentation on who owns the data, and that is extremely important for legal matters. So that would be the one that I would bring to the table for, management to really consider. Really understand where your data is going once it leaves your network.
Okay, next one is assess your workstations. So workstations obviously are the front line of your IT infrastructure. It keeps and allows your organization and business to function. However, they are the source of most downtime, lost productivity, and are a security risk as well. So your assessment of your workstations should cover the following areas. Operating systems. Again, hopefully you don't have any XP machines. We're still seeing them out there, but they were retired at the same time as Server 2003, which is April of 2014. So that means Microsoft hasn't released any security releases, any security updates since April of 2014. So if you have any XP machines in your environment, you will want to prioritize getting rid of those and replacing them with something that's more up to date. Vista as well. Vista support ends April of next year. So that's something that is coming up on the horizon. If you have any Vista machines that you're running in your organization, that is something that you should definitely have a plan, be developing a plan to retire. Endpoint security. So by endpoint security, this refers to any antivirus or any firewalls that run on your workstations. What antivirus and what firewalls are you using? You want to make sure that they're centrally managed. That means that as the IT administrator, he or she doesn't have to go around to each machine to verify that they're getting updates, to verify that they don't have viruses, to verify that they are getting updated as well. So you want to ideally have some sort of central management so you are kept up to date on the security in your organization. You also should consider having a settings password on your antivirus clients. This is a simple thing to set up that will just prevent your users from disabling or changing any settings on their antivirus. Users should not have the ability to do that. If they do feel that there's something that's being caused by an issue that's being caused by antivirus, they should be contacting help desk or the IT team to assist them with resolving that. Next thing, local administrator access. Do your users have local administrator access on their machines? If they do, why? Do they have it? That's something that you should have a business case to justify. If users do have local administrator access, it does provide a bit of a security risk, but as long as you have a business case to justify that, then it's something that you can defend. If you just have it for ease of use, it may be something you want to reconsider or even reduce. If you want to have a group, group of power users that do have that local admin access, and then have everyone else scaled down who doesn't need it, that's fine too. The reason that it provides a security risk is because it allows, it does make it easier for viruses to get into your network and then to spread as well. Hopefully, if you're on a domain environment, you don't have domain users added to the local administrators group on your workstations. We do see this occasionally in some organizations. They do it so that users can jump around to different machines and use them as if they were their own. But this is a huge security risk, and I've seen viruses spread throughout a whole network in a matter of minutes if all exists on all machines. So that's definitely something that you should keep an eye out for. The last point is your line of business software. So what software are you using? Are you using QuickBooks or something that's more specific to your organization? Most of you are probably using Office. You just want to document that so you have that information for when you go forward with your assessment.
So as you guys can see from the picture, Eric took, he put a snapshot of my office in there, of my very portable computer. Workstations, obviously they have to be addressed, they have to be looked at, they are basically the productivity tool of your employees. I would just stress very carefully to everybody, if you do have BYOD, so bring your own device at your company, that you have permission to access people's personal computers, as they may have personal data on there. But you should also have a policy to cover you on these BYOD devices. If you guys were to Google or look around, or if anybody's trying to deal with BYOD, you could see that it's a moving target and everybody's having a very hard time with it. But we will address it in another slide. But once again, if you're assessing workstations on your network, always please have permission from the actual user that you will be touching your personal computer.
Okay, getting ahead of myself here. Okay, step 5, assess your LOB is line of business software. Assess your line of business software. So every organization has at least one, and it runs the operational side of your IT, or business operations side of your IT infrastructure. There's several areas of assessment that you should recover in respect to your line of business software. Support contracts. This is a big thing. Especially if you're outsourcing your IT, it's very important to have that support contract for that line of business software. These tend to be niche software that you need to have that experience from the company who actually makes the software and the support. You also want to make sure that you're getting updates and that sort of thing. A lot of times updates for line of business software are not available unless you have a support contract. Hosted location. Where is the data hosted? Not only what server does it reside on, if it's locally hosted or on-premises hosted, or is it hosted in the cloud? Future-proof. So in your experience with your line of business software, is it something that they update regularly? Is it something you keep on top of your updates? A lot of times what we see with line of business software is occasionally they're made by smaller organizations who don't have the resources to keep up with Microsoft's update cycles. So you want to make sure before you do an upgrade that the line of business software that you're running is compatible with the new version of the operating system on the server and the workstations that you're using. Or if it's not compatible, you want to see if the company has a plan or even a release that's compatible with the newest one. If they don't have a release, then at least having a plan or a date of when they expect to be compatible is something to look for. You don't want to be in a situation where you buy a new server, you start to upgrade, and then only to find out that, oh, your line of business software doesn't run on the new operating system. Yeah. The next thing would be reliability and accessibility. So what does the line of business software enable you to access software outside the office? And then this is where you could start looking at cloud. I know I mentioned before, line of business software is a good way to start moving your business to the cloud. What's the reliability and accessibility that you're getting now? Is it something that you can improve upon if you move to the cloud?
The only thing that I'm going to add to this one is a lot of people are using out-of-the-box type of software or customized software. For the few agencies out there or nonprofits, if you guys have actually custom built any type of software with any type of third-party developer, it is extremely important that you retain control of your information. There are third-party companies, elastic services, and I really stress that you take advantage of them. For example, if you look at Iron Mountain, it's actually called a technology escrow service. So basically what happens is they will hold the whole data and all the code and everything in escrow for a monthly fee, and if for whatever reason the company goes out of business or whatever the case may be, at least you have the insurance policy with Iron Mountain of your data and code is safe, so you don't lose all the money that you guys have invested into your line of business software. The next one I'm going to take over. This is where, a few years ago, IT was just IT. It was just, someone smacking down some workstations and servers and making your email and internet work. But as technology has changed the world and every business is reliant on technology, it's pretty funny now that technology touches all aspects of an organization. It doesn't matter what department you're in, there's some form of technology that is actually part of it. It is very, very important that you guys should have an acceptable use policy. This is something that management, especially if you guys have access to HR, should be sitting down and putting into your employee handbooks and basically stating to all your employees, volunteers, anybody that is accessing your hardware, your network, of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable within your network, and what are the repercussions to it. This is usually a very good standing point when trying to deal with users, or if something has happened in your network, it's a very good way of protecting your company from lawsuits or any type of bad media, right? So I highly stress that you talk to either an IT consultant or an HR professional about developing a use policy. Another thing that we always stress to everybody we deal with is, once again, in their employee manual, to put in an email and computer monitoring policy. By law, users must be made aware that even though the computer is owned and the email is owned by the company, that upper management may monitor emails or computer use. And once again, it is owned by the company. It can be done at any time. It's more of an FYI. Many companies do have these policies in play, and many of them don't even access it unless there is a reason to. But it's very important that you do develop a policy. Every time we do a network assessment, if we see this missing, these are two recommendations that come out right off the hop of an acceptable use policy and an email monitoring policy. And last but not least, as our previous slide, BYOD policy. Very big, very huge risk, big moving target, especially if you have a lot of volunteers coming in with their own gear and trying to access email or company files and all that. It is very important that you have a BYOD policy. There's a lot of ways that data is getting moved around, including smartphones. So some of the policies we have seen around have given, if someone is terminated or leaves the organization, the phone must be handed over to the IT person to remove any apps or data that belongs to the company. If not, remotely, the phones can be wiped, causing complete data loss. Now, why it's important for you to have this in a policy is once they sign off on it, and for whatever reason, if you do perform a remote data wipe, at least they cannot come back to you or try suing you and saying, I lost all my personal pictures because you deleted your information off my phone. It is extremely important that you protect your data and your devices as well as your company. And there are technologies out there that allow us to isolate company data on phones or on personal equipment. So if they do leave, it's as simple as changing a password and they will lose access to that data. So these are 3 key points that every employee manual and company policy should have in play, or you should be working towards integrating it into your company. I cannot stress enough at how much this will protect you legally. So there's a lot of IT consulting companies out there. Very hard to distinguish who's what, who does what very well. That little slide is, that little picture is something that I really love. Good, fast, cheap, pick any 2, right? And you'll see, the way things really work. It's not only IT consulting. I think it's any real business service product out there, right? This is a very general picture, but it applies to so many businesses. I would use these 4 steps in really identifying who you choose to work with in the future. And, once again, take your time with this. Do not rush to work with anybody. But, here are some of the steps that I would do, if you're going to be choosing any IT consulting company to work with. Step 1, always have clear objectives, a clear timeline of when you want to deliver the project as well as a budget. Extremely important. Sometimes IT consultants are busy on other projects and they may not be able to deliver in time, so there really is no use in discussing with them what you're up to because they will not be able to deliver. Step 2, RFP. When developing an RFP, engage your board, engage management, engage any volunteers that may have experience with this, and very simply, it doesn't have to be very technical, but you should come up with some form of engagement, objectives you're trying to achieve. Once again, the timeline and a budget, very important in an RFP. It will eliminate a lot of potential IT companies once they see this information, because everybody does things a little differently. Third step, IT consultants, try finding someone with some industry experience or has a clear understanding of Canadian privacy. Very important, especially for nonprofits. You guys have access to a lot of personal data, and if you guys do leak out the data, PR nightmare for you guys. So make sure they really understand about Canadian privacy. For example, like BC privacy, all data must reside in Canada. Like, these are very important. If they don't understand that, it's very risky to start dealing with IT consultants in that nature. And then step 4, once you actually disclose once you actually release the RFP and everybody responds within a specific amount of time, the 4 key areas that I really look at with RFPs when we help companies out are, once again, have they addressed the business goals of the RFP? Are they delivering a very well planned and documented proposal? It should be very black and white, not a lot of gray area, right? Reason being, if they're engaged, as the next point says, they will identify all the gray area. And once again, do they guarantee their proposal? This is extremely important. If you are very good at what you do and you have performed the right network assessment, you should be able to have a very clear picture of how much time and how much money it is going to take to perform any project. A lot of the reputable companies out there will actually put a guarantee against their proposal that they will not exceed the hours they quoted you. So very big. It's really putting your money where your mouth is, but these would be the 4 steps I would take into choosing a IT consultant. Step 8. This is basically the final one. Once again, do your due diligence. When doing your assessment, when picking an IT consultant, really, take your time. Really, look at what you're dealing with. Check references, ask questions. Look at your board. I cannot stress enough how much, especially charities, nonprofits, your boards are like a wealth of information. It's amazing some of the people sitting on this board, and most of the time they just do not know what's happening at the time, but I would always bring them, always get them involved. A lot of these people have learned certain lessons the hard way, so they have licked their wounds and they will not make the same mistake twice. So once again, these are just simple things. Take your time. I cannot stress that enough. Do not make decisions based on trying to hit a certain deadline. So I hope we covered a lot of stuff here. Like I said, 365 IT Solutions is a huge, huge supporter of Techsoup. We have sent an endless amount of nonprofits and charities that way. The funny part is some of them never even heard of Techsoup, which is really, it's pretty sad considering that they have such an excellent mission and they're doing so much to help the nonprofits and charities out there. So we are a huge supporter. We do have certain things that we want to help them with in the future also going forward. As part of this webinar, if anybody is interested or if anybody is looking to do any type of server upgrades, storage upgrades, workstations, tablets, anything of that nature, we are a huge Lenovo partner, fantastic company, fantastic products and services. We're able to extend some great pricing to Techsoup members only. So 10% off any server, storage equipment, 5% any workstation, tablet, anything of that nature. If you guys are not in the market for any hardware of that nature, what you guys can also touch with us is we can help you guys perform a complimentary network assessment. We can give you guys a true picture of what's going on and what you guys need to be looking at. If not, engage us. We could be your third party. Free of charge, we could sit there, we can help you guys review RFPs, we can help you guys review proposals to make sure you guys are actually getting what you guys need, and making sure that it's a 5-year window, eliminate the surprises. So basically we could sit there, and help you guys out. Or if you guys need, Techsoup members can also dip into our MIP program. So basically that has to do with anything migration, integration, or any projects program. We have extended a 20% discount to all Techsoup members. So if you guys are looking at doing that, any Office 365 migration or anything of that nature, talk to us. We will do our best to access all the Techsoup programs and services that can help make this very cost effective, as well as we applied some cost effective measures to this also, and we could go from there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Enzo and Eric, for this presentation and being with us today. So now we're going to take some time to answer questions from our audience. So if any of you have not yet asked a question in that little question box, do so now. And we're going to get to as many questions as we can with the remaining time that we have. So the first question is from Teresa, and she asks, I've received so much conflicting advice and consequently purchased and repurchased technology that has never quite been adequate. How do I move into a plan that puts me forward 1 to 5 or to 10 years down the road?
Okay, perfect. You know what? Great question. We have been faced with a lot of companies that unfortunately have been guided down the wrong path. So this is the way we see it. When you do a network assessment, you get a true understanding of what the company currently is doing with the infrastructure. When you identify the pain points, there's certain softwares out there that can resolve these certain issues. So it's basically a math of how much processing power do you need, how much hardware do you need, and how much memory do you need when it comes to, let's say, for example, a server. We always put a little extra because you got to always account for growth of a company. And all servers we sell come with a 5-year warranty from Lenovo itself. So you have a manufacturer warranty. That's why we always say it's a 5-year window. Any reputable company should be able to tell you 5 years down the line where your next move is going to be. So I'll use 365 365 as an example, we have moved a lot of clients to new servers recently, according to their business. However, all the companies are also aware that their next step is going to be majority cloud services, so moving them to Azure or something of that nature. If you are going to market, one thing you'll see is, and this is where the RFP really comes into play. For example, 365 IT, whenever we're in the market and we're up against very reputable and very good competitors, our proposals are almost identical because we deliver technology the same way, we understand technology the same way, and we understand the business the same way. So that's why we always stress people, do not stick to one, always shop around, and if they cannot explain to you the plan, there's bigger concerns there.
Thank you, Enzo. And now our next question is from Sherry. How do we set up a complimentary consultation or review with 365 IT Solutions?
Okay, so we have a couple of ways you could contact us. If you do go to our website, you could just contact us directly, or you could also touch base with Techsoup. They know how to get a hold of us. We can set up a free network assessment or even a free conference call to discuss what you're trying to do. And once again, it's free of charge. It's something of us giving back to the community. There's no obligations, no fine print, no hidden message here. We're just a very open, very straightforward company. So feel free to go to our website or just contact us through Techsoup Canada.
Beautiful. And our next question is from Tim. Are 365 IT Solutions cloud servers located in Canada?
So thanks for the question. Excellent question. So we actually offer multiple cloud services. So for 365 IT Solutions itself, which is us, all our equipment and all our services are hosted on our equipment in an ISO certified data center. However, we are also a big Microsoft Cloud Services partner. We do have some companies that are using currently Azure. All our customers use Office 365. But once again, the good news is there's going to be a lot of momentum as soon as the data centers, the Canadian data centers come online. That's where we're going to be able to select Canadian data residency only with Microsoft services. And their data centers are actually, one is in Toronto and one is in Montreal.
And they've committed to Q2, I think, for bringing.
Yeah, so Q2 calendar Q2. So we're hoping the beginning of April those are going to be online, and there's already a huge amount of companies waiting for this Canadian data residency.
And our data center is actually in Toronto.
Yes.
It's about a 10-minute drive from our office. So.
That's actually, I'm glad you touched on that because it's a perfect segue into our next question, which is addressing just that. So this is from Ismit, and they're saying that their company is located in BC, and they had already joined Office 365. They're not fully using it due to privacy restrictions. So as you were talking about, when Microsoft releases the services in Canada, our organization is going to be able to migrate to those Canadian services, or in general, what can they do to make sure that they can migrate to Canadian servers?
Okay, so fantastic question. The BC Privacy Act has been actually a very big thorn in a lot of people's side right now. There's a lot of valid concern there also. We haven't seen it yet, but basically, if you already have an Office 365 portal, it'll be as simple as logging in and selecting Canadian data residency only and apply. It's going to be literally the click of a mouse, and you should be able to stay on the Canadian data centers. Ourselves, we haven't seen it yet, but from Microsoft itself, we have been being told that it's going to be as simple as a click of a mouse. So as long as you have access to your portal, you should be fine.
Beautiful. We have another question from Joyce. How long does it actually take to do a proper tech assessment internally, and how often should we conduct one?
Okay, so internally, unfortunately, it takes a little longer as people, carry a lot of hats in these organizations. it takes a lot of planning. For ourselves, example, if we go into a company, we usually could do assessments within a couple of hours. But companies that have done assessments for themselves, usually I have noticed that by the time they do the assessment, review everything with the management team, and come back with a report, it's usually a 3 to 4 week process. I recommend that obviously A, you review your IT yearly at a minimum. B, you perform any type of assessment when either A, you're going to be growing, B, there have been a lot of changes within your company, or C, if you're facing budgeting concerns or if you have to do your yearly budgets, that's the perfect time to actually do an assessment. As you know, sometimes when you tell them what your IT budget is for the year, you know, you get a lot of scared people, but the assessment usually is what defends the budget.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. So I have one last question, and this is actually coming from me, and I wanted to just ask on behalf of the audience. So you had talked about, specifically in step 6, but also throughout the presentation, about certain policies that it's very important for organizations to have. And I'm wondering, do you have or know where we can, organizations can get good sample templates for these policies?
I'll be honest, it's been, if you actually Google half of those policies online, you will get a lot of, these policies are very public. So a lot of the universities, educational, a lot of these organizations have all these policies online. They're excellent areas to use as a guideline or a template. So I would use those as an example, but once again, you should have them reviewed by, you know, an HR professional or a lawyer, which most charities have on the board. So I would really tap into your volunteer base or into your board. And some of them may actually have the policy already written for their companies. Don't be afraid to ask the board. I'm telling you, you guys have a wealth of information on your board usually.
Right, so they can take those policies and just bring them in and adapt them.
Exactly. A lot of corporations have already spent money, a lot of money in developing these policies. If the charities have, you know, if you look at your board of directors and where they work, you know, these policies are nothing secret. A lot of them would be more than happy to share them with you. So, you know, that's why I always stress to everybody, you know, talk to your board. You know, they're there for a reason. They know a lot, right? And, you know, use them as much as you can.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Eric and Enzo, for helping us learn about assessing our IT needs and implementing technology. And I'd also like to thank all the attendees for taking the time out of your lunch hour to join us. And I also want to remind you that this webinar is being recorded, and we're going to post it on our website in the next few days. We're also going to be posting it online on our YouTube channel. And the webinar slides are also going to be available later on. And please also take the time to fill out this brief post-webinar survey that is going to launch just after we close this session. And if you have any additional questions for Techsoup Canada or 365 IT Solutions, you can